St. Dunstan, a renowned English bishop, visited the Fens in the 10th century, he was outraged, for he found most of the abbey's monks were married or cohabiting with womenfolk. Such was his fury that he transformed the monks into eels, cursed to swim the creeks and twining rivers of East Anglia to this day. As a stark reminder, he named the island Ely, the Isle of Eels. Though drained in the 18th century, Ely is still recognised officially as an island. These days, the cathedral watches over the vast sunken Anglian lowlands, the lowest area of England. In the distant past, the Fens would have been strangled by mists lifting from the marshes. If we suspend our disbelief, it is easy to imagine the heroes and phantoms of this ancient and mysterious place, fighting and prowling about its murky shallows, suspended in the annals of time. Undoubtedly, the most notorious of heroes the Fens gave birth to was Hereward the Wake, who in 1067 rallied the English resistance against the Norman invader William the Conqueror. In a stance of defiance, Hereward converted Ely Abbey into a fortress and remarkably held it against the invaders until 1071. Exasperated, William ordered that a causeway be built traversing the Fens from Aldrich to Ely. His next tactic was bizarre. He enlisted the aid of a famous French witch. As the Norman army gathered on the mainland prepared to attack, the witch screamed curses upon the Saxons from a high wooden tower overlooking the newly erected bridge. Unbeknownst to William and his army, Hereward had disguised himself as a workman, and when the bridge was almost completed, he got close enough to set fire to it. The flames devoured the surrounding beds of reeds, racing across the causeway and firing the tower. As the tower gave way and crashed down upon the banks of the marshes, so too did the witch inside, falling to her immediate death. Panicked and confused by hidden marksmen loosing arrows from the shadows, the Normans scattered blindly into the marshes and perished in their hundreds, either from their wounds or the treacherous swallowing bogs surrounding them. In 1071, Hereward's fortress was eventually betrayed by the monks, who in return for clemency led the Normans by a secret path through the marshes. If legend is to be believed, Hereward escaped with his life, afterwards travelling to Winchester, where he swore allegiance to William, ultimately gaining the conqueror's favour. Some of William's men were not so forgiving, however. One night, Hereward was set upon by a band of vengeful Normans, and though he managed to kill 15 of them with his famous sword, Brainbiter, he was stabbed fatally in the back and fell dying at their feet, defiant till the end. An earlier story attributed to Hereward concerned his association with another abbey, that of Peterborough. The Saxon abbot there was sympathetic to Hereward's cause. When Duke William realised this, he had the abbot replaced with a Norman one. The new abbot had few illusions about Hereward's attitude towards the church and ordered 150 knights to secure his tenure. Hereward sacked the town and abbey anyway, capturing its treasure and taking the abbot prisoner. For his grievous sin, however, Hereward was visited by a vision of St. Peter in the night, holding a huge golden key. He demanded that he return the treasure and the abbot to the saint's own abbey. Hereward obeyed the command and never attacked the abbey again. In the days after, while mounting an attack on Stamford, Hereward and his men became hopelessly lost in Rockingham Forest. It is said that in sympathy of their plight, St. Peter sent a wolf to show the men the way, and as night fell, lighted candles appeared on every tree and every man's shield, impervious to the wind, as a token of the saint's gratitude. As one of several places where King Canute, the Viking king of England, is said to have shown his inability to turn back the tide, the fenlands of Anglia once more play a part in the shaping of the country. The legend states that after showing the futility of arresting the waters to his bidding, he wandered away alone and went fishing. When night came, the king was still sitting in his boat. He asked for shelter in a nearby monastery, but the drunken monks refused him. He instead found refuge in a fisherman's hut. The fisherman, named Legris, told the king how years before his wife had been raped by the monks from the same monastery, and when he had gone to rescue her, he had been brutally flogged by the brethren. His wife later died in childbirth. In revenge, each year on his daughter's birthday, Legrus would find and kill one of the monks from the monastery. The next day, Canute left the hut and summoned his fleet lying in a nearby river and ordered it to attack the monastery. Many of the corrupted monks were killed, the remainder forced to build a new fishing village, today known as Littleport. In return for his kindness to the king in his hour of need, Legrus was made its first mayor. On misty evenings upon the Little Ouse River, a phantom barge has often been reported drifting towards Ely. It is crewed by a group of monks, chanting hymns as they row their way through the labyrinthine passages of the marshes. At the head of the barge lies the shrouded corpse of a woman. The body is believed to belong to St. Withburga, the founder of East Dereham Nunnery. When she died, she was buried in the grounds there. In 974, the abbot of Ely ordered his monks to steal the saint's body and bring it to Ely, with the hope that her new resting place would attract droves of pilgrims willing to bolster the abbey's coffers. Tradition states that the abbot's plan backfired when a spring of healing water gushed forth from Withburga's empty grave, delivering so many miraculous cures that pilgrims continued to flock to Dereham's nunnery for years after. Connecting Littleport with Shippier Hill is the Bulldog Bridge. In the Middle Ages, a servant girl was sent by her mistress to pick sprigs of wild mint on the banks of the Redmere. After gathering the mint, the girl was overcome with tiredness and lay down by the wayside to sleep. Her slumber was disturbed when a passing friar thought to leap upon the girl, proceeding to tear her clothes off. Though the girl tried to resist, the monk overpowered her. Had it not been for the arrival of a large bulldog that dragged the friar off, she would have perished upon the marshes. The dog mauled the monk fatally, but was slain when the friar stabbed him with a hidden dagger in his death throes. Since, the bulldog has been seen often running across the bridge at dusk. Caused by self-igniting gases from decaying plants, these small sinister flames are said to flicker across the marshlands at night, luring passing travellers to their doom by hypnotising them with an eerie glowing dance. Inviting wayfarers under their spell to walk into the bogs willingly was their delight. For the unsuspecting traveller, it meant certain death. Sometimes the flames would disguise themselves as beautiful women or a crock of silver or gold to allure passing folk. The fairies responsible are known by many names, including jack-o'-lanterns, will-o'-the-wisp, Jonah the Wad, Spunky, Picket, and Ignis Fatuus, meaning foolish flame. Fen folk believed that whistling attracted the will-o'-the-wisps or lantern men, and that the safest course of action was to lie face down on the path if you saw one dancing towards you until it passed by. In literature, these mysterious lights can be seen in The Lord of the Rings, when Frodo and Sam cross the dead marshes with Gollum, who warns them not to follow the lights, lest they keep the dead company and light little candles of their own. They can also be seen in Dracula, Jane Eyre, Harry Potter, and the Spiderwick Chronicles. In other media, they can be found in fantasy video games like RuneScape, Castlevania, and the Elder Scrolls series, proving that their allure has not yet expired. Most of the Fenland tales act as allegory for the innate depravity and low moral character of monks and the church as an institution, portraying them as cowardly, scheming, and perverse in nature. This is a belief that was likely held by the humble Fenfolk rather than the aristocracy, as most legends and tales are spread by laymen in the pursuits of cultural enrichment and communal solidarity. Whatever their design, we can only lament that the haunting sight of the Anglian Fens is one never to be witnessed again, since the marshes were drained many years ago. As we venture into the winter months, however, one might be inspired to visit the flatlands at night, stand in the frozen mists rolling in from snaking Anglian rivers, and wait patiently for the eerie effigy of a barge and the chanting of monks, the faint wail of a witch, or a host of hazardous flames flickering enticingly in the gloom. Thank you for joining me in this episode of British Folklore, Myths and Legends. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share and subscribe. I'll see you next time.